Some families spend their summers without electricity. Running water, Wi-Fi, or even a nearby road high in the Tien Shan Mountains. Standing alone beneath massive snow-covered peaks, their home is a circular felt yurt. There might only be a wood stove, a gas lamp, and the sound of animals outside at night. This is the part that seems nearly impossible. They could go. These families own homes in the valleys. They have access to modern life, phones, electricity, schools, and clinics. But each spring, when the grass starts to grow again, they pack up their livestock and ascend farther into the mountains. They decide to go. Why? This is Kyrgyzstan, where mountains dominate practically every horizon, and about 90% of the country is located more than 5,000 feet above sea level. Herding families have been following the seasons for generations, bringing their sheep, goats, horses, and yaks to the high summer pastures known as Jelu. Imagine realizing that your entire world for the next few months is contained within a felt-covered wooden frame as you wake up before sunrise and step outside into the chilly mountain air. Nothing to do. No walls in an apartment. No alerts. Just the people next to you, the fire, the grass, and the animals. It may appear from a distance to be a life that the contemporary world has forgotten. However, that is a mistake. They are not stuck in the past. Below, another life awaits them, and each summer they decide to abandon it. Because the most unexpected aspect of this ancient way of life in Kyrgyzstan is not that it has survived. It's that people continue to select it. The day starts before the sun up here. Someone is awake and pushing open the yurt door as chilly air spills across the floor before the first light reaches the mountains. Throughout the night, the fire has diminished. After adding a few pieces of wood, the stove gradually comes back to life. The milking comes next. Horses move in the shadows outside. Goats and sheep swarm together, the morning air revealing their breath. While the adults start to move the herd toward the grass, a child, still partially covered by a coat, mounts a horse. At the end of the day, there isn't a supermarket waiting. Thus, the animals are the starting point for nearly everything they require. Butter is made from milk. Some turn into cheese. Additionally, kumis, a slightly fizzy beverage that has been a part of life on these pastures for generations, is made by pouring mare's milk into containers and letting it ferment kurut, which are tiny, hard, dried balls of fermented dairy that can last for a long time without refrigeration, are made from another portion. Since nothing can be wasted, nothing is. However, something becomes evident when one observes this family at work. People don't appear to be fighting for their lives. It appears well organized. The kids know what needs to be done. Where the animals should graze is known by the adults. Everybody has a task, and the land itself seems to be the source of the day's rhythm. And it's a huge piece of land. Over 9 million hectares of pasture cover Kyrgyzstan, a nation dominated by mountains. In order to maintain the seasonal movement that has shaped life here for generations, a law passed in 2009 gave local communities a significant role in managing these grazing lands. This might seem like a different world to someone who lives in a city. For the locals, it's just summer, and that brings up a more profound query. What if this isn't a life they were unable to abandon? What if they still know how to live this life? The mountains are not visited by locals. On top of them, they live. The scenery starts to reveal more about Kyrgyzstan than just the family we recently met. Roads wind through valleys where the villages get smaller and the air gets thinner as they ascend into the Tien Shan. In the distance, peaks rise to a height of about 24,400 feet above everything else, including Jengish Chokusu. Elevation is not an exception around here. It's daily existence. Thousands of glaciers store water high in the mountains before releasing it into the valleys below, and about 90% of Kyrgyzstan is located above 5,000 feet. People are profoundly shaped by this landscape. An open slope is traversed slowly by a shepherd. There is no fence in sight, and horses are dispersed throughout the grassland. There is nothing between the traveler and the massive rock walls as a narrow road vanishes around a mountain bend. These mountains made Kyrgyzstan hard to get to for centuries, But something was also shielded by that seclusion. The old routes endured, nomadic customs persisted, families kept relocating with their pets, not on city streets but according to the seasons. This culture was not merely encircled by the mountains, they contributed to its preservation. However, the same terrain that gave rise to these communities is starting to shift. As temperatures rise, Central Asian glaciers are melting. Once trapped in ice, water is now part of a much more uncertain future. This is not an abstract environmental tale for those who live downstream. It can refer to crops, pasture, water, and survival. Thus, a challenging question is starting to surface from these stunning mountains. What happens when the mountains that provided this culture with life start to change? A home is what keeps people in one location for the majority of the world. A home is what allows you to depart from this place. There are no concrete walls inside a Kyrgyz yurt. The structure is held together without nails, just layers of wool felt, woven straps, and wooden poles. It can be constructed, occupied by a family, disassembled, loaded onto a car, and moved on. That was more than just practical for a people shaped by open grasslands and mountains. It was a lifestyle. Without sacrificing the sense of home, the yurt allowed for mobility. Even though the environment outside their doorway changed, children could grow up surrounded by the same family customs. And the tunduk is another. A circular wooden frame holding the roof together can be seen if you look up through the center of a traditional yurt. That straightforward shape gained so much significance that it is now the focal point of Kyrgyzstan's national flag. Consider the implications of that. Even in a nation with cities, roads, airports, and contemporary structures, the idea of a nomadic home remains central to its identity. Another tale is being hand-preserved inside numerous yurts. Shurdak carpets require days or weeks of meticulous work to cut and stitch felt into striking geometric patterns. The craft is acknowledged as a part of Kyrgyzstan's cultural legacy, but as younger generations gravitate toward contemporary employment and urban living, it may become more difficult to transmit traditional skills. And that produces a subtle tension. Because losing a yurt is more than just losing a structure. It could be a language of memory, family, and mobility. Thus, the question arises: what happens when a culture that was designed to be mobile starts to vanish? This lake ought to freeze. It doesn't. Issyk-Kul spans more than 170 kilometers high between the mountains. Even though winter temperatures can fall well below freezing, the lake rarely completely freezes. It retains heat long after the air becomes bitter because of its great depth and slightly salty water. However, the lake only provides a portion of the narrative. You must sit down at someone's table in order to comprehend Kyrgyzstan. When a stranger shows up at a house, food starts to appear before they have had a chance to speak. A dastarkhan covered with cloth is laid out. Borsak lands warm in a bowl. Kumis is poured, besh barmak, which consists of a single large plate of noodles, meat and onions, comes next. Just one plate, lots of hands. What that means doesn't need to be explained. You share a meal. The food is passed by you. You create space. Being hospitable was more than just being courteous in a nation with vast distances. Travelers could spend hours traversing exposed valleys and mountain passes for generations without a place to stay or buy food. An opening door might be important. It might matter if the room is warm. A bowl of food might be important. And maybe that's why hospitality here can seem more like an ancient memory passed down from one generation to the next than a performance. According to an old proverb, a Kyrgyz child learns to ride before they learn to walk, and you can almost understand why when you watch Kok Boru. Two teams battle for control of a heavy object weighing about 70 pounds as they charge across an open field on horseback. Horses make sharp turns. Leaning from their saddles are riders. Bodies clash, Dust lifts from the floor. For a brief moment, it appears more like controlled chaos than a sport. However, Kokboru is not just a game. It carries the memory of a society in which horses served as a means of transportation, a source of income, a status symbol, and a means of survival. That custom has now spread well beyond the pasture, by bringing athletes and customs from nomadic cultures all over the world together. The World Nomad Games transformed contests like Kokboru into an international platform. Kyrgyzstan was able to demonstrate beneath the festivities, though, is another tale. Finding the native Kyrgyz horse in its traditional form has grown more challenging. Animals that had evolved alongside Kyrgyz communities for generations were altered during the Soviet era by breeding programs that favored larger horses and crossbreeding. It's hard to miss the irony. A culture is resilient, its language is resilient, its celebrations are able to endure, its national symbols are able to endure. Even so, tiny fragments of the original world may subtly vanish. Another horse comes into the pasture. Another breed becomes more beneficial. It gets easier to lead a different lifestyle. These shifts don't occur all at once. They take time to occur, one generation at a time. This raises a question for Kyrgyzstan that goes well beyond horses and Kokboru to become modern. What are we willing to give up? Perhaps even more crucially, how much of the old world can we afford to lose in the process? There is no Wi-Fi, no plumbing, no power supply. However, it appears that no one is waiting to be saved. A man checks the horses before dawn. Water is carried by someone. There's a fire ready. The closest paved road might be miles away, and the mountains outside are still dark. This life may appear almost unattainable from the outside. The number of screens is reduced. Fewer devices, fewer items vying for attention. Here, however, freedom has a cost. It's a physical job. Winters can be harsh. In the mountains, the weather can change rapidly. Additionally, making enough money can be a continual worry for families who live far from large cities. It would be an insult in and of itself to paint this life as paradise, because the work is not made easier by beauty. Tradition also doesn't cover every expense. This reality has led to a different kind of journey for many Kyrgyz families, one that does not involve horses or mountain passes. Leaving is part of it. In order to support their families back home in Kyrgyzstan, hundreds of thousands of Kyrgyz citizens have worked overseas, mostly in Russia and other nations. The nation's economy now heavily depends on those remittances. All of a sudden, the mountains appear different for someone seeking a higher-paying position. The same valleys that appear serene from a distance can also feel restrictive. A young person might have a deep affection for their hometown. They might have a deep affection for horses. They might adore the mountains and still purchase a ticket. The contradiction is that even if a place makes you feel like you belong, it may not provide you with enough opportunities. You may feel liberated by it, but you may still yearn for more. Therefore, the question becomes more difficult than it has ever been. Why are so many people leaving the mountains if life there is so lovely? The country of mountains is visible to the world. Beneath those mountains, however, is a people attempting to recollect who they are. An ak kalpak, a tall white felt hat that has come to represent Kyrgyz identity, is placed on a man's head in a village. The strings of a komuz start to play nearby. There are 3 strings. A tiny wooden device, however. Songs, tales, humor, and memories have been passed down from one gathering to the next for generations. Then there are the akans, poets who have the ability to improvise verses in front of an audience, bringing recollections and observations to life. Manas stands above all of this, an epic so massive that it may have over 500,000 lines in its complete traditional versions. However, this is what makes it exceptional. It didn't require a library to survive. People remembered it, which is why it survived. Manashis turned the human mind into an archive by learning thousands upon thousands of lines and passing them down from generation to generation. Some of these customs are now spreading well beyond Kyrgyzstan's boundaries. Traditional sports and nomadic culture have become a global spectacle thanks to the World Nomad Games. At the same time, locations like the nation's endangered snow leopards and the walnut forests of Arslanbab are now part of a greater effort to preserve what is left. As the nation struggles to find its place in a world that is changing quickly, even Bishkek has started to host international events. And maybe that's the true tale here. Kyrgyzstan is not just keeping things as they were. It is choosing which aspects of the past should be preserved for the future. Because a culture doesn't vanish just because people no longer remember it. Sometimes it vanishes because no one thinks it still has a place in the contemporary world. Kyrgyzstan appears committed to disproving this. Kyrgyzstan might be among Central Asia's youngest nations. However, some of its contents predate memory. The mountains can seem surprisingly distant back in Bishkek. Young people carrying phones stroll by cafes. Cars travel through congested streets. Pupils leave for class. Apartments can now connect to a world that is not thousands of miles away thanks to Wi-Fi. This is Kyrgyzstan as it exists today, youthful, linked, evolving. The road then ascends, the structures vanish, the signal gets weaker. A family opens a wooden yurt frame. Someone hits a match. The cold air rises with smoke. They pour milk. Before the family moves further into the Jelu, horses are gathered, same nation. Distinct rhythm. It is possible for one generation to exist in both worlds. In Bishkek, a child may spend part of the summer riding horses in the mountains after growing up watching videos on a smartphone. While grandparents continue to make felt carpets by hand, a parent may leave the village in search of employment overseas. Nothing in this place is entirely stuck in the past. Furthermore, nothing has completely evolved into something new. That could be the reason why it's so hard for outsiders to understand Kyrgyzstan. It is young enough to be undergoing rapid change, but old enough to recall a way of life that predated modern cities, borders, and highways. It is now up to the locals to make the decision. What ought to be kept, what needs to change, what ought to be abandoned. We started by asking why anyone would decide to move to the mountains from the modern world. Perhaps the answer isn't really about picking one world over another after seeing the roads, the yurts, the horses, the families, the hardship, and the freedom. Maybe it's about attempting to fit in with both. Perhaps progress was never meant to entail sacrificing everything that gives life purpose. Our lives are measured by our possessions, money, speed, and technology. On the Jelu, however, there is still another metric: family time, fulfilling employment, a connection to the land, and the ability to live at your own pace. They don't have a perfect life. They must have cash. Some people move away from home. The weather is shifting. Maybe that's the lesson, though. Modern life is not something we have to give up. All we need to do is keep in mind what we want to keep. We refer to a place that we are unable to relocate. They can take a certain amount of freedom with them when they call a place home. So perhaps it's not a question of who is more advanced. What do we need to feel free when everything is taken away? Subscribe to Travel to Facts for more stories that go beyond the obvious if this trip changed your perspective on life.